Trump wants cities to force more homeless people into treatment. What does that mean for Eugene? The executive order pushes for more forced treatment of homeless people dealing with addiction or mental illness and aims to reverse legal protections that make that more difficult. I asked the city about it. They said nothing changes for now. Most of Eugene's rules about illegal camping or their homelessness policies come from Oregon law, which the White House override. We're also waiting to see how the EO might affect federal grant money. Now, Trump pointed to a California study saying that most homeless people use drugs or have mental illnesses, but that study also says the main reason people fall into homelessness is money issues, and it doesn't represent the entire country's homelessness crisis. Now, in Oregon, it's already super hard to force someone into treatment, and federal pressure won't change that. States get to set their own threshold for involuntary commitment, and ours is pretty high. Now, the order also goes after the housing first model, the idea that you help people get into housing first and then you deal with addiction or mental illness later. It's clear that model won't work for everyone on the streets, but Trump wants to go back to the old system where you earn housing step by step, and studies show that doesn't work either. So right now, no big changes in Eugene, but a big federal vibe shift that could impact future funding.
Y'all, did I just read this right? That President Trump signed an executive order that could literally make it illegal for you to be homeless. Now, that is what the headline said, but of course, I was going to go do a little more digging, a little more research to find out about this executive order. If a police officer believes that you struggle with mental health or that you have an addiction, they could forcibly institutionalize you. Now, this is without a court order, without options. You're just going. They can institutionalize you. Now, of course, there's some pros and cons to that. The pro is those that really do struggle mentally, emotionally, or maybe even have an addiction, they get the help that they need. Nevertheless, the con to this is if a police officer wants to be ugly and you're belligerent, or he feels that you said something that was inappropriate, now they can say, well, I believe that this person is struggling mentally, and they can forcibly institutionalize you. There's no court proceeding. There's no court order. You just go, you get swept away. Now, you let me know, do you believe this is something good for us, or do you believe that this could definitely backfire as far as with police being able to make this decision if they feel that you are not stable enough?
They signed an executive order allowing federal agencies to institutionalize unhoused people. That means forcing people into treatment or holding facilities with or without their consent. But here's the problem. Institutionalizing people doesn't address why they're unhoused. 30% of homeless people have serious mental illness, but that means 70% don't. They're often victims of job loss, high rent, or even medical debt. There is an agenda to associate severe mental illness with the unhoused, and that is not necessarily true. Institutionalizing people, especially who pose no threat, is against their constitutional right. He also wants to reduce funding for harm reduction programs. They've already slashed down $1 billion of funding to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration. And even worse, the Supreme Court has upheld a ruling that allows cities to ban unhoused people from sleeping outside. History repeats itself, and we've tried this before. In the 1950s and 1970s, people were institutionalized in unsafe, overcrowded facilities. Many were released with no care, no housing, just back on the streets. Out of sight doesn't necessarily mean it's been solved. What actually works, giving people housing first, and it costs taxpayers less money than emergency care and incarceration. It's over $150,000 to house an inmate. And seen here in Stockton, California, they ran the first universal basic income study that showed that individuals use the bread for meaningful things that allow them to live and provide for themselves and their family. Being unhoused is not a crime. It is not a mental illness. It's a housing issue, and it demands real compassionate policy, not more institutions. We need real safety for those out on the street. But what do y'all think about this housing policy? What does it mean?